I was just having a wank, and it was like in an afternoon, it was really leisurely, and I like used quite a lot of lube, and then a bit more, then a bit more. And then like, I don't know what, it just kind of went from like 2 or 3 fingers to 4. And then I was like, actually, there's some room going on in here. I've really like built myself up. And it just happened like really quickly. Hey everyone, you are listening to the Ins and Outs podcast with me, Ruby Rare.
And me, Megan Barton Hansen. Hey, it's been a while since we checked in on this. How are you finding single life?
I thought you were going to ask me that. You said, so it's been a while, like you were a teacher and you just like sat me down to have a review or like a boss being like, so this is your quarterly review. How's being single? Which I'm down for. I probably need a bit of that. It's highs and lows, mate. It's quite a lot of lows, but a mixed bag. I feel like it's so weird, like trying to like enter a new phase of your life, and there are moments where it's really exciting and really lovely.
Yeah.
And like have been having some very silly, slaggy little times. I've like been away a couple of times in this bit. I went to Berlin a while back for this ridiculous porn film festival, which was great.
Nice.
But like, yeah, had some fun there. But also there's just times when I'm like, oh, fuck, this is actually really heavy. And leaving like a big relationship is a lot and messy and hard, and like holding all of those big complicated feelings with also like, woohoo, live, love, let's get out there. Like it's a bit of a head fuck.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's why I asked so like intimidatingly.
You did it in a really kind way, but I think because you know, like a bit that I've been going through it, it's good to be asked. So yeah. Thank you.
And like I said, I can't comprehend, like I've never had a long-term relationship. So it must be so bittersweet. Like you say, you've got like this independence, freedom, the fun, new side of your life, which you hadn't had. But then also the other side, it's been such a big change. So
big change, but needed. And I do think it's like, I'm excited for what's next. But you know, it's just that scary thing when you don't quite know what that is yet.
It's weird, as humans, we just don't like change, or change is just uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. What's going on in your dating life, babe?
Tumbleweed, like literally nothing. And then to add to how single I am, Hinge has now put some rule on that unless you get back to all the chats in your chat already open, you can't match with anyone else. But sometimes I'm like, oh, this chat's dead and I want to find new people, but it doesn't let me. So I've given up with dating apps, I think.
I didn't know that they did that.
Only recently.
Wow, that's fascinating. I'm going to look into it.
Cock blocking me, annoying. But yeah, so I've stopped that. I've removed one man from my roster because he just was not good. Like, obviously we're just hooking up for sex, but equally I need like something. Do you know what I mean? Like, give me something.
Even if you're just hooking up, there needs to be more. Like, I think it's really easy in those situations to like overlook a lot of stuff. And sometimes that's just what you got to do, and that's okay within reason, obviously. But yeah, if someone's being an asshole, whether you're like in a relationship with them or you're just like hooking up every once in a while,
yeah,
they still don't deserve your time and care and attention.
Right. So that's what I said. But you be honest, I don't know if this was crazy. So we know it's just sex, and he knows he's not like the only guy. So there's two. One that is just sex, but
when
he's
two
like,
become one. Wow, we got down. This is like you being on The Bachelor, being like, this is my rose just for hooking up.
But the older guy, like, he knows like how to treat me with respect still. But the other guy, he was driving down to mine. Fair enough, it's like a long drive just for a hookup. But he was like, oh, do you want me to stop and get a drink? Or no, something like this. And I was like, oh, I'll order it. But I thought, basically then, you're coming around to mine for guaranteed sex, expect me to go out and supply you with beverages, and then you're telling me that you may or may not stay after because you have work. I'm like, now you've just taken the fun out of it. I don't know why asking me to get the drink was the final nail in the coffin, but I thought, I've wanted to tell him to do a U-turn, but I didn't. I made him come and then just didn't like come down and then just didn't have sex with him. And then I just said, I don't think this is going to work, mate. I was like, I'm just not into it now. But I do want to spell out him being so tight not to even like who turns up to someone's house, whether it's a friend or just going round? You wouldn't turn up empty-handed.
Or what I ask, like, what can I bring? Because then still they can be like, oh no, don't worry, I've got it sorted. I guess like asking in that way makes it a bit more open-ended and a bit more like, because I'm expecting to bring something to you.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just like, do you want me to do this or not? Like you having to make decisions that maybe you don't need to in that context.
Yeah, I just thought it was giving minimal effort vibes. Like, turn up with more than your penis, please.
It's quite hard to turn up without the penis, actually.
True.
But also, you don't have to, like, if you're not feeling it, that was maybe the catalyst of realising why. But you also don't need to justify that. Like, that's not the only thing. Clearly, there were other things leading up where you're just like, you know what? I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sign of strength.
Thank you.
Well done, my love.
Growth.
Growth. Woo. Also being like, the roster is 1.
Yeah, now we're down to 1.
Well, look, 1 is hopefully nice. There's room for more. There's room for other things.
And I think I'm just going to let it. I'm bored of the dating apps now. It is like another job. I'm just going to see if someone is out and they're cute. I might approach, but not. Let's see.
I like that. Wow, really going old school. Dating in the wild.
I really want that to happen to me. Has it ever happened to you?
A little bit. I find dating apps more comfortable as a way of having like an initial interaction. I don't think have I hooked up in the wild? Not for a really long time. I've met people before like at sex party things.
Yeah.
And then that's like in the wild.
I want to come to it one day.
Okay, that's a future episode. We can talk a lot about that. But no, mostly I am a bit of a fan of the apps. But future episode just about dating apps. I feel like we've got a lot to talk about with that. I'm very excited about today, Megan.
So am I. I can't wait to dive in.
We've got we were thinking about different episodes to do, and these 3 topics just like have kept coming up, I guess, a bit in both of our lives, but also with like the questions that we get asked. And so we've popped them all together. For me, this is like the holy trinity of talking about sex in a really fun and silly way. Today, we are going through the ins and outs of lube, squirting, and strap-ons. Yay! I'm so ready for this.
I'm so excited to learn. Honestly, I've got so many questions for you.
I feel like we're both going to witness me going like really into sex nerd mode today. And I'm just going to like rein me in when you need to, but also ask as many questions.
Yeah.
And like, let's share some really stupid stories.
Literally, I'm going to eat this up. I'm so excited.
So first of all, lube.
Yeah.
Wonderful world of lube.
So what are the reasons some people would use lube?
Well, it basically just creates less friction. So the more fluid and wet everything is when you're having sex, the more things are gliding and feeling great.
Gliding and sliding.
Gliding and sliding, baby. And this could be like solo sex, partnered sex, full-blown orgy, whatever you want. Also, for some people, it's just an add-on where it's like more lube would be fun. For other people in their bodies, it might be more of a requirement because you're experiencing some kind of dryness or like whatever. And that's fine too.
I love lube, but
Great.
I do feel like there is so much shame as a woman, like, oh, what, are you not wet enough? That kind of vibe. And I don't know, I've always just been very open in the bedroom and like will be quite like honest, I guess, and just communicate what I want. But I remember one time I come out of Love Island, I was with my ex and we left a bottle of lube on the side and was filming ourselves. My manager was like, guys, you've just posted and there's a bottle of like, I think it was like Durex lube in the back. I was like, oh my good God. I was like, take it down, but it's too late. It went in the sun. But I was like, actually, why am I ashamed? Mm-hmm. Like, I hate that stereotype that to use lube, you must be like, like you don't have like a nice wet puss.
It makes me so enraged that that's where we're at with it. Also, I mean, I don't have high regards for the sun in general, but being like, really? Is that what we need to report on to be like, oh my God, Megan and her boyfriend use lube. Scandal.
Like, no shit. What do you think we're doing out here trying to like start fires? The friction.
Okay, that's a party trick that I really want to see, but also I want you to protect your genitals as well. So maybe not.
Me too. Never again am I suffering in silence without the lube.
Well, but again, that's the thing. I think so many people still, the last 5 years or so, there has been a shift, and I've noticed a bit more of a kind of change in the conversation around lube, but there's still a long way to go. And so many people who have that deep level of shame talking about this and it being seen as something that like you need and it being like a failure. Let me get nerdy for a second. Like, when someone gets wet, do you know where, like, how that's happening?
I genuinely don't. I just thought it come from like the actual like nun hole.
No, it doesn't. I mean, at some point we're going to need like a big diagram or whatever, but I'll just describe it. There are 2 glands on either side of the entrance of the vagina. Actually, they're like a little bit lower than the urethra, called the Bartholin's glands. And these are like the areas where natural lubrication comes from. That happens when people are aroused. But what that looks like, how much that is, how like easily that happens to people or not, it's so varied. There's no like one size fits all, no normal amount for that. Also, that's for people who have vulvas and vaginas. For people with penises, there's like a getting wet self-lubrication as well in terms of pre-cum. And that comes like out from like the tip of the penis, from the urethra. But there are lots of reasons why people might not get as wet. And that can be anything to do with like age and menopause, also with certain medications that you're on, like certain antidepressants can really affect that. If you're going through chemotherapy, like just general stress, like loads and loads of different reasons. And I think because of that, there's this real stigma that lube is something that you use as like, because you're a failure, because you like actually can't do this enough on your own. So here's this like sad little supplement that you need to use because you can't get wet enough. And I hate that. It feels like such bullshit. Yeah. I definitely had that as a teenager, of feeling like to get wet was like the thing that you had to do, especially kind of coming into sex in a very heteronormative way where it was just like, I'm a woman, I have sex with men, being like, cool, well, the man gets hard and I get wet and then sex can happen. And that is such a boring way to approach sex in my mind.
And so narrow-minded. And I guess like as a woman, the more you're thinking, oh my God, I should be like super wet right now, you're then getting anxious. So you're not going to be
That's
wet.
not helpful. It's not helpful for anyone. And like I've slept with people before, like my body changes all the time and I can be super present, super turned on and horny and just being like, I don't know what's happening, but just like, I'm not getting wet in the way that I might do on another day. And rather than that being this like source of shame and anxiety, just being like, well, cool, that's fine. Because I always have lube with me. Like if, obviously at home, but like there is never not lube in my bag.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just
like,
to be whipped out anytime you need a quickie.
well, and there are some brands that I like that have like little sachets of lube.
Sick.
So I've got a couple of them in my like makeup bag all the time. Because you never know when you're going to need it.
Oh my God. Good thinking.
Thanks. I mean, maybe a bit overkeen. But
no, better to be prepared than underprepared.
Yeah. And like I always have condoms with me, again, just in case. But I also don't really sleep with men and like cis men with penises that much anymore. And so the lube is essential for everyone. Or if I'm just having a wank.
Yeah, I think that like the more the better. Even if you're like wet, like why would you not want to make it wetter? It's like, why are we being so like, oh no, it's because the woman can't get wet. Well, maybe it's because you, Bernard, don't think I'm really good enough. Like, why is it always the woman's fault firstly?
I would love you to say that in a sexual situation and being like, it's actually on you, mate. So sorry, you're not.
I'm just going to reach for the lube now because your fingers, I don't know what they're playing at.
Well, like lube's really helpful, like in just creating a bit more fluid, more lubrication in the situation. But also if you're not feeling it, lube shouldn't be like a substitute for then carrying on with sex that isn't feeling good. Like you're allowed to also be like, hey, this isn't working for me, and either pause and readjust or be like, maybe I don't want to have sex with you, and so let's just not go there. For me, the biggest shift was seeing lube as like a sex toy and as a pretty essential sex toy in most of the times that I have sex, and it being this like fun, enhancement rather than like a shameful thing of going like, oh, vaginal dryness. Oh no, like quick, we have to get the lube. So yeah, that's been my biggest shift in focus in the last 10 years. And now I am just a real nerd for lube.
I think that's a good way to look at it, as another sex toy.
Yeah.
Rather than, like you say, like something you need. But I don't know why. I do think we're starting to change it. I've noticed over the last like 5 years. Like you say, before that, it was like no one spoke about lube. Or do you reckon it's just like an age thing? Where we was young, we didn't really know about it as much.
That's a really good point. Maybe it's a bit of an age thing, because as you just come into yourself a bit more, you can be more confident and be like, yeah, I'm going to get some lube because I'm allowed to get some lube. That's just happening.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I hadn't thought about it in that way. I reckon that's as much as like a wider cultural shift, also just us being more confident in our own sex lives and the people that we're interacting with, it not being like a shock. Because maybe if early days, when I was like in my late teens, early 20s, I don't think the men I would have slept with would have been like, cool, yeah, lube, great. Like it maybe would have been a bit more of a thing, in the same way that like if I'd whipped out a sex toy, they would have been like offended by that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, oh, am I not doing a good enough job? Like that you need a sex toy, I need that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's not about that. It's about bringing in more fun into the mix. Like this is going to be good for you, good for me, good for everyone.
We're leveling up, baby.
Always.
So I feel like now we're obviously using lube more, we're speaking about lube more. And I've noticed there's a real trend. There's like CBD lube. There's so many different kinds now.
Yep.
Is there any that you think are like better for you, like in the health of your vagina, that's like good for the pH balance, or any, it just suits you differently?
Yeah, let's do the full lube breakdown.
Okay.
Thank you, Megan. I would love to do nothing more than that right now. So there's 3 main categories of lube.
Right.
There's water-based, silicone-based and oil-based. Water-based lube tends to be my go-to almost all of the time.
Right.
And that is because it works well with condoms. If you use like an oil-based lube with condoms, condoms break down. If you use a silicone-based lube with some like silicone toys, that can damage the toys.
Right.
A water-based lube is good for like all bodies, all toys, all condoms. So you kind of know that you're safe with that.
Right.
It can vary. Sometimes water-based lube, especially like less stuff that's just not as well made, can get quite like tacky, which
I hate that.
Isn't as good. But there are loads out there that are really great. I think Yes Organics makes, I would say, the best water-based lube that I have ever tried. And as you can imagine, I've tried a lot of lube. And Pasante have a really good like basic water-based one that I really like as well. And it's a little bit of a Goldilocks of like figuring out the consistencies that you like. Some people like a lube that's a bit more runny. Some people like a lube that's like much more thick and is going to like hold its consistency. Also depends what you're doing with it, because there are some lubes that are specifically designed for anal play and for like fisting as well. We'll come on to that maybe in a minute.
That word just scares me, I'm not going to lie.
Okay,
my butthole tenses up when I hear that.
Let's just park that. hear me out. I'll chat to you about that in a minute. So yeah, for like, especially for anal play, you're probably going to want like a slightly thicker consistency of lube. And also be wary for lubes that have glycerin in them, because that in particular can affect pH balance, and that's just not a nice time. You don't want to use lube and then be like, now I have a yeast infection. This isn't fun.
Yeah.
So I would say going for lubes that really are like designed for sex and like medically approved is the best way to go. Water-based lube, rant over. Silicone-based lube, it's much, it kind of can feel weird. Have you ever used it before?
What brand? Like,
there's lots of different brands. It feels like really silky. It's a bit eerie. It's like a bit of a slip and slide. It's like really, really silky all over the place.
I feel like this one I had, it was like white lube and it's called like liquid silk, and it was like amazing. I'm assuming that must be silicone.
So liquid silk is water-based actually, but it is very silky. So hybrid in terms of sensation. Like silicone-based lube has silicone in it. So it's got this kind of like very glidey texture. Some people really like it. Some people less so. The biggest downside for me is it really fucking ruins your sheets.
Oh no.
Like it is like it really shows up and it can be kind of hard to get out. I also I don't love the sound of like silicone, which is a plastic, than just like being in and around my genitals. And that's more of a personal preference. Mostly it's about the bed sheets. And like I've got really nice expensive silicone sex toys. I don't want to mess them up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I tend to stay away from it.
Right.
And then oil-based is an interesting one. There are some brands that make oil-based lube designed for sex, which have been like approved and are safe to use. The issue I have with people using like coconut oil or like another kind of like a natural oil that isn't necessarily like packaged and designed for sex, the main thing is about contamination, because most coconut oil jars, like you're just opening it up and scooping your hand in. Actually, in terms of bacteria and like STI transmission, but just also general like bacteria stuff, it's not really great to be like scooping that out, using it all over you and someone else, and then like going back in there. I know that's deeply, deeply unsexy, but there's like an alarm bells thing that rings for me. So some oil-based lubes that have like, you just like pop the lid open and squeeze it out. Like obviously there's not going to be that contamination, but that's good to think about. And if you are using condoms, do not get oil anywhere near them, because it will just break down the condom and it.
See, that's nuts. Why was you not taught that at school?
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. I used to actually, when I went into schools, I would like sometimes show like with a condom, like rubbing oil or like Vaseline on it, and show that after time, like it does just break the condom down. And obviously, if you're using a condom, you don't want to get pregnant or transmit STIs. And that is a big spanner in the works.
Yeah. I feel like the only other question I had is with the oil ones. So, you can sometimes get them candles that turn into like an oil.
Yeah.
Can that be okay to be in there? Because sometimes I'm lazy and like I don't
pull that candle on, baby.
Yeah, I don't really want to walk all the way downstairs or somewhere else to get the lube. So if we're using the massage candle that turns into an oil, massage oil, can that be okay or no?
I think it's hard to say like a hard and fast yes or no, because I think those products are designed to be massage candles, which is then like an oil for your body. And I'm sure that getting that in and around your genitals may well be fine. If I'm in professional sexual health modes, I'd probably say best to also have some lube that you can use if you're doing anything penetrative.
Yeah.
But also if I'm day-to-day Ruby mode and I was in a sexual situation and what we had to hand was a little sexy massage candle, would I not use that as lube? No, I probably would. So like it's I don't know if that's the best advice to give. It's
basically
yeah.
And don't be a lazy cow. Read the instructions on the candle or have a lube to hand.
Don't be a lazy cow is good advice for this, I would say.
Okay.
And also, if you do use that or something and it's not working with your body, like that's a good thing to think about. Of like, okay, what condoms, what lube am I using? What am I using to wash my genitals? Like using really scented soaps and stuff is not a good thing for like anyone's, but particularly vulvas and vaginas. So yeah, sometimes like I've had mates who've had like chronic yeast infections over and over again, and it's like because of the lube that they were using or something like that. So we don't want that.
No. And the worst ones for me, the flavoured ones or the scented ones, oh my God, my puss hates them. Just like, get them away. I
don't like a flavoured lube. I've also never tasted a flavoured lube that I like.
No, it's like so chemical and
it's not great. No. And I think for like using them, if you're like going down on someone with a penis, like giving a blowjob may be different, but like it's probably not even sugars that are in flavoured lubes now, but whatever is in them going inside a vagina or an anus, I'm going to say probably not a good thing to do.
Yeah, probably better alternatives.
Makes me sort of squirm up. And my main kind of tip for people is to just use more lube. Again, like don't be sparing with it. It's not that thing again of just being like, oh, a tiny little bit because that's all I need because I'll do the rest. Like actually seeing what it's like when you use a lot of lube can be really fascinating because sometimes interesting things happen, Megan.
I feel like I know what you're hinting.
Yeah. This is one of I actually, in my first book, Sex Ed, I wrote this out as a story And then after the first draft, my editor was like, I love you, Ruby. I think this one's a bit too much to put in.
Please share with us.
So we found the place for it, everyone. Sometimes when you use a lot of lube, some would say maybe a bit too much lube, you can accidentally end up fisting yourself.
Oh my God. Wait, we need to know everything from the start. Like,
well, look, first of all, I don't think fisting is like a major taboo thing. I think it's fine. Like, fisting has so many misconceptions. It is not like you fit, like holding your fist like you're about to punch someone.
I genuinely thought that's what it was.
No, it's the way I describe it is like, it's more, well, I don't like this terminology. People do it like it's more of a duck bill.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of squeezing all of your fingers and your thumb together in like a long way for people who are listening, people with the camera like this. Ta-da! So the widest part is where your like thumb knuckle and your little finger knuckle is kind of meeting together.
Yeah, mine is still quite big. You've got tiny little hands.
I've got tiny hands. So honestly, I've experienced toys and dicks bigger than that.
Oh my God, your hands are diddy.
They're really small. So maybe I've got the perfect fisting hands.
You have.
But this is not something that I had ever experienced before. And again, there's so many taboos around like being loose or like, oh my God, 2 fingers, fine. 3 or 4, oh my God, that's way too, like.
That's so playground, don't you
We've got
think?
so much fucking playground double standards going on. But yeah, I was just having a wank and it was like in an afternoon, it was really leisurely and I like used quite a lot of lube and then a bit more, then a bit more. And then like, I don't know what, it just kind of went from like 2 or 3 fingers to 4. And then I was like, actually, there's some room going on in here. I've really like built myself up. And it just happened like really quickly.
Did you panic or not really?
No,
Or was you just into it?
I was actually really curious to just be like, wow, my body's doing a thing that it has never done before. This is cool. And you know, if you like have a child, like a baby can go out of there. Like vaginas are like very elasticy.
Yeah.
And it's not like you use a really big toy or like fisting or whatever and then it's like forever you've just got this massive fucking vagina.
Yeah, of course.
But it was really fascinating and it kind of opened my eyes to something I was not aware my body could do or something that could be fun as well. And I have lube to thank for that. What's the verdict? Do you think it was good that wasn't in my book?
I think that should have been included in the book because that must have happened to so many women when you're just like playing around, like there's loads of lube, like one thing leads to another. Why not?
Literally one finger leads to another and another and another. You got the whole set.
Yeah, I think I was always scared of fisting because I thought it was more of like a performative thing for your part, like I don't know, or like when I'd gone into like sex toy shops in Soho and you can see like the actual like rubber fist, it just all looked very aggressive and scary, but the way you're describing it is so like natural, and if it feels good, why stop?
Yeah. And there are some people who are into more hardcore fisting, like, and that's vaginal or anal. Like, more power to you if that is something that your body can do and contain. I have a couple mates who are gay guys who are really into fisting and like it can get pretty extreme, but everyone's having a fun time. And like, you know, you're not going from nothing to full fist going into one of your orifices, you know, like you build up. If something feels uncomfortable, then like slow it down. I'm now realizing I feel very passionate about fisting. I want us to normalize this. If it's something that you're into, then great. Yeah. If it's not, also fine. But maybe give some things a go sometimes.
Yeah, we shouldn't be here to shame anyone. Like, try.
Or just size up people like me who have really small hands. And you're like, you're coming home with me tonight.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to start dating girls more again. Check out their hands, hey?
Okay, I'm just realising that I've told you that story and it's going to be out in the world. I think I feel fine with it. It was actually like a really sweet, tender moment for myself.
I think it was so
and now
endearing.
All of you as well.
No, I think it's so endearing, and it definitely, people can relate 100%.
Endearing fisting. I want that on a t-shirt. Like merch.
No, but I feel like we've covered so much, all the different lubes. I can't wait to get out and just try one.
And just
see what my lube is.
Yeah, and just use more. Like
Yeah.
if you're not using it, use some. If you're using some, use a bit more.
And like you say, I'm going to remember that. I shouldn't be like, oh God, is he going to think like I'm super dry or this? Like, it's another sex toy. More the merrier. Let's lube up.
Let's lube up, baby.
Let's do it.
So we are currently partway through recording this and there is too much to talk about in one episode. So we are going to push this to a 2-parter. We'll be back next week for even more ludicrous fun.
It's been so fun though. I can't wait to pick it back up.
Yeah, more lube, more squirting, more strap-ons. So yeah, in the meantime, please do get in touch with us. If you have any questions, our email is hello@insandoutspod.com. We want to hear your stories. Let's go.
So soon we're going to do an episode all based on your sex questions, your sex stories. We can't wait to hear them. So make sure you write in and share everything with us. And don't be afraid because we love to overshare.
If this episode has not already demonstrated.
As you've seen here.
All right, tune in next week for more of this silly educational chat. Until then, mwah, bye-bye.
Bye.